And good morning. I see that there was people waiting in the live stream, waiting already. Give me a thumbs up if you're out there. I didn't know that people could wait while I was setting up the live stream direct from the laptop. It is January 23rd, 2021. It is now officially, right now, 8:30 a.m. Central Time. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. Just want to make sure that everything is good with the audio. I'm not seeing anything come through there yet. Got a couple thumbs up, so a couple people, 8 thumbs up. All right, there's 32 people and only 8 thumbs up. Let's see if today we can get everybody who's in the live stream to give us a thumbs up. So 40 of you now and only 13 thumbs up. That thumbs up does let YouTube know you're interested in this content. So let's go over to the comments real quick. NT says, I can hear you fine. Sean says, good morning, Willie. Audio sounds good. Gibby, good morning. I can hear you. Doug, hey, Doug. Everybody looks like everything's sounding good. Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, make sure you smash that thumbs up button. Hey, Joe from Cajoling Tech. Hey, Joe, did you weigh in? So Joe and his wife and me and my wife are doing a weight loss challenge. It ends July 5th. Joe, remind me if I'm correct on that. But anyway, the goal is to lose 10% of our body weight. And so we're all actively participating, taking those steps to become healthier. And every time I do that, it's I get to a point and sometimes I slip, I fall off the wagon, start eating whatever I want. And then when I start running again and watching, I'm like, why did I ever let myself get out of shape? So it's tough, it's tough. I hope everybody is doing well this morning, doing good. So I do actually have somewhat of an agenda this morning. Now, where are all my Mac users in the comments? Who uses Mac out there? If you were with me last week, you'll realize the conundrum that I put myself in trying to decide what I wanted to do as far as a Mac goes. So I am going to sell the Mac Mini that I have here. It is a few years old, but I'm going to sell it along with the monitor and all that. So I'm going to get that up on the Facebook Marketplace. Excuse me. Maybe I'll make a social media post about it. And I'm going to, kind of get rid of some of this other stuff and kind of clean up a little bit more. I'm trying to do a little bit more organization. So to the right of me that you can't see right now, I do have a 2-post rack, and that is going to go away. I've got 3 2-post racks they're half height. But what I'm going to do is I've actually, if you've watched my UC 3200 videos, you'll see that I've got that white folding table. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get everything cleaned off that. Now, Synology is actually helping me clean that off. They have finally, said, hey, as soon as you're done with those videos, we'd like you to send the UC 3200 back. So I am going to spend time tomorrow filming those videos. They won't necessarily be released next week, but I'm going to get everything filmed so I can get that packaged up, get it over to UPS, get it back to them so that their inventory is complete. But they've been very understanding because they know that we've been installing and configuring more Synology devices than ever. And so sometimes those videos kind of, the priority of those videos gets lower and lower. So everybody's kind of really been understanding. Ubiquity, my handler over there, reached out to me, and they did some reorganization internally as far as working with media folks and stuff like that. And I wouldn't say that I'm kicked out of the Cool Kids Club, but they are definitely reorganizing, and they want to capitalize on my strengths and stuff like that. So I think we'll probably see some changes in how they send gear out. And of course, I'm committed as always to Grandstream. And if you follow Quick Tech, Tony did an awesome video this morning pitting the Unifi 6 Lite AP against the GWN 7630. And you can catch that GWN 7630 for about $90. And if you watch Tony's video, you will see that AP slaying. And hey, Tony's actually in the comments. Hey, Tony, I forgot to ask on your video, what firmware version are you running on your GWN 7630? There's a beta firmware that's stable enough that we're actually rolling to production, and we've talked about that a little bit. But let's go to the comments real quick. Yeah, so I'm all over the place. So I have finally made a decision about the Mac, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a MacBook Pro M1. I am part of the Windows Insider Preview Club, whatever that is. And so they now have x64 emulation on the Windows 10 ARM edition. So I should be able to get that running in parallels. I should be able to run any of my Windows software that I need inside of that, or at least participate in the experiment of getting that going. So, and also I saw an article this week there's an Ubuntu 20 something, or maybe a 21 something release that they now have running on the Mac ARM. So it looks like I'll be able to have all three operating systems on the new M1. And so I am going to go ahead and pick that up. I mean, for me, that is a very expensive purchase, which is why I'm like making notes and watching things and like trying to figure out exactly what I want to do, because I mean, Best Buy will price match Amazon. So the laptop is a bit cheaper. It's about $1,218. But for me, that is a huge expenditure, especially I've got a kid getting ready to go to college and get into the workforce this year. So we're working on helping him. He's supposed to call down to the electrical apprentice program this week and get on the list there. But then in the short run, I've always told him you don't need a 4-year degree as long as you have a skill, he kind of was like, yeah, I'd like to be an electrician. And all the electricians I know are very smart people. The ones who are self-employed love it. And so we're going to help foster that in him. But in the short run, he's going to go to community college, work part-time with me. And I don't know if he's going to get rid of his current part-time job that he's got, but he's going to work part-time after he graduates. He's going to go to the local community college, build up some of those base skills, just get some of the prereqs out of the way. And the electrical apprenticeship program has become super popular. So if you're thinking about a career change, if you have kids coming up, or people, like the apprenticeship programs in the trades is booming because we don't have enough skilled workers in the trades right now. So it's a really great opportunity to get into something like that if you think you can make a career out of it. But let's go to the comments real quick. Oh yeah, but I am gonna do the Mac, so you'll see that. Maybe I'm not gonna do an unboxing. I really think that unboxing videos are not my strength, right? And this year I want to concentrate on my strengths. So my strengths are going to be bringing accessibility to technology, and then I think customer service skills, then lessons learned about running a business. But the real main super thing we're going to focus on is the technical side, being in the weeds and getting things accomplished. So I'm really excited about that, being able to focus on that. James is also going to be putting out more videos on the channel. I'm trying to get Tim to put more videos out. We are podcasting. I've already had mentioned to Tom Lawrence that I'd like him to be on the podcast. He said he'd sign on, all that good stuff. So the podcast was supposed to launch last year. Things happen, but I am going to move forward with that this year. So to try to have a greater outreach to folks with this accessibility push that I'm really going to have this year, and just to get so many different people in tech. I'm going to reach out to different YouTubers and people maybe you've never heard of, and we're going to try to have a huge tech conversation this year. So fingers crossed that is going to work. And you'll see more information about that. If you're not on the newsletter, go to williehowe.com, sign up for the newsletter, because a lot of that stuff will get kind of pushed to those folks first. We'll try to vet it and things like that. And then, of course, the learning stuff that's coming this year. So, okay, Mike Johnson says he bought, let's even go up a little bit further than that. Let's see. Unifi. So John asks, Unifi has changed their settings design. Do you like it or prefer the classic? So for now, until we've got feature parity, I do prefer the classic. Also, there was a particular conversation, and I'm going to do a video about this, but if you go look at my tweets, if you follow me on Twitter, if you don't, that's cool too. Because it is going to come out in a video relatively quickly because it's something that I can get out. But we're starting to see some trends in the Unifi releases like we did in Unifi video up to Protect. And so I just want to compare and contrast some of that stuff. Mike Johnson bought his Mac M1 this week also. So Mike, you'll have to let me know. I'm just going to get the 8 gig version with 256 gigs of storage in the space gray. Ryan Sharp says, don't go outside. You'll freeze instantly day after tomorrow. Like, so yeah, I got down to about 9 degrees here last night in the Peoria area. Not too horrible. You know, I mean, look, I'm wearing a hooded sweatshirt inside. So, you know, definitely want to make sure you stay warm, stay healthy. Jack Squat says, what are the chances of putting on a Grandstream certified professional training class over IP video talk? Who wants to wait until 2022 until COVID is under control? So Jack Squat, it is in the actual rules from Grandstream that I cannot certify you remotely unless they change that. We can't do that. So we could do the base training, so like that associate level training, we can do that remotely, but I can't do the professional because you have to have some hands-on, and I have to proctor the exam, right? We are actually looking at planning training classes for 2021. I don't think we're going to have to wait till 2022. We're definitely on a positive, well, cases here are declining, and I think the news that I'm seeing, we're heading in a positive direction. So I do not believe we're going to have to wait till 2022. I think we're going to be able to do our training classes live in 2021. And I'm very excited about that. Joe from Cajoling says, the electricians I know in Connecticut have more work than they know what to do with. I've been waiting a month for work to be done. Yeah, and I know some people out east in some of those areas where Joe from Cajoling Tech lives, and these electricians out there are so crazy, and they are actually in some of these higher end neighborhoods. They're making like $120 an hour, $125 an hour changing light bulbs, and that's no joke. And so yeah, the trades are booming. It would take me a long time to learn how to put in plumbing. I can do some light electrical, although I really, it's not something that I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to go mess in the electrical panel. I'm not like, like I'm not real hip about it. I can do some of it, but I'd rather call an electrician who's bonded, insured, and, can make sure that things are done properly. Now, for me, though, like you saw the video where we're like toning our breakers, that's something simple that I can do. There's not much danger in that, and everybody should know what their breakers do. Sean says, I'm all for the trades. I made sure my child's college savings account allowed it to be used for both college and trade schools. That's a pretty good idea. And Mac Telecom Networks is in the house. Oh, I love podcasts. I usually am listening to this live stream while I'm in my car. Yeah. So the podcast, we're going to be able to say some things probably in the podcast. And I'm not going to seek out sponsors to begin with. So we'll see how the podcast is accepted. I think we're going to be able to say things a little differently in a podcast format. I don't know yet. We'll see how it works out. Gibby says, just ordered a Grandstream router and 3 APs. I will be replacing 3 AC Pros at my house and USG. I can't wait. You are not going to regret that. So, yeah, Doug is up north of us. He says it's 5 degrees there. Forgive me if I slaughter your name. So, Lua Tang says, once you get your Mac, can you try to see if there's a good way to view Wi-Fi, to view Unifi Protect live stream on the Mac like a CCTV video view? Yes. So I actually have to do a video on the UNVR. I'm going to, Ubiquity sent that over, so I am going to do a video on it. So we will definitely check that out. The other thing that I'm excited about with the Mac, so if you saw my cover video, I guess we can, or my cover picture, we can go ahead and dive into this right now. So I want to thank all 3 of these vendors. You're going to see this video coming after my QNAP video and one of the Synology videos. But I actually have some, I'm going to mix it up a little bit, but I have a Cambium. This is the XV2-2 Wi-Fi 6 access point. So this is the Cambium. I've been running this thing, and this thing has been rocking. It has been solid. In fact, this one AP has competently covered our entire house, upstairs and downstairs. So you're going to see this. And by the way, Cambium was the first vendor that we saw. And I have to qualify this in kind of this space that we run in, because I don't install Cisco APs anymore, the higher end stuff, and I haven't done any of the Mist stuff yet. They were supposed to send me a Mist AP for doing a webinar. They never sent me one, and that's okay, because I don't know that I'll ever recommend the Mist system, right? But Cambium was the first vendor who was putting these covers on the AP, so you can see it's kind of bubbled. So this one is different. And so you're going to see the Cambium AP go up against, and Grandstream does have a Wi-Fi 6 AP coming out this year. And so as soon as I get my hands on that, that'll get thrown into the mix as well. So here's the Unifi Lite 6, and you can see it's got this plastic cover on it. And so that protects it. So when we're doing installations and our hands get dirty, we're not pushing our fingerprints on the AP. And I've been putting off the U6 Lite video because I've been hunting for an AP that Ubiquity offered a long time ago that was in the same size format. So way back in the time of the green ring APs, they had a standard UAP that was called the UAP Mini. So it was the same size as these other APs. It kind of like went poof into the night. And I've been trying to get my hands on one for the video, but it doesn't look, even Ubiquity, they came back and said they don't have any lying around anywhere. I mean, maybe Robert's got one, Robert Para. I don't know if he's got like a collection of APs hanging up in his house. And maybe when he comes to Peoria to play me in a fundraiser game of horse, maybe he would bring me one. But I doubt it. And I doubt he'll come to Peoria to play in a fundraiser game of horse. But wouldn't that be fun to see the athletic Robert Para take on the non-athletic Willie Howe in a charity fundraiser game of horse? I think that'd be a blast. So you can tag him on Twitter. You can tag Ubiquity. Say, hey, let's get Robert to Peoria to play horse against Willie. All right, so this is so thanks to Cambium, thanks to Ubiquity for sending those APs out. This is the ingenious Wi-Fi 6 AP that they sent over, and it comes in a plastic bag, but it doesn't have doesn't have anything on the cover, and you can see, based on the size. So here it is next to the U6 Lite, and then here it is next to the Cambium. This Cambium is a beast, an absolute beast, and it has been you're going to see the speed comparisons. And so this is the ingenious 802.11ax indoor managed AP. The model number, if you're interested, is EWS 357AP. I don't know if it's multi-gig. There is a quick start guide. By the way, the Ubiquity U6 Lite does not have a multi-gig port. It is 1 gig. So there's going to be some limiting factors there. The Cambium Wi-Fi 6 AP has a 2.5 gig port on it. So it is multi-gig. All right, so the quick start guide for the ingenious. Let's see if it tells me real quick if this is a multi-gig port. So it doesn't, and I haven't looked at the let's see. So it says that the access point, all it's saying is LAN. It's not saying in here, there's no specs in their QSG. So I don't know. All it keeps saying is I need 802.3AF. But it doesn't tell me. So if somebody could look up, can somebody real quick look up the ingenious EWS 357 AP and put it in the comments whether this has a multi-gig port? I don't know if it does. I don't want to say if it does or doesn't because I don't know. And they sent, is this a PoE injector? What is this? Oh no, so there's no PoE injector. There's no, and that's the thing too. A lot of these APs are no longer coming with injectors, because I think they're assuming that at the level you're going to be deploying these, that you have a PoE switch. So this looks like just some light mounting gear. So I definitely don't want to lose that. So I'll set that over here, but then I will get rid of the cardboard. All right, so that's the first Wi-Fi 6 thing you're going to see. And I got to get some of these videos done. It's just the backlog, when we're busy. But I've got a couple good subcontractors who are able to help do some stuff so I can get some of these videos pumped out. All right, let's head over to the comments real quick. Excuse me. Let's see here. Bob Carpenter in the house. Bob is at -3 degrees centigrade, and off the top of my head, I don't know what that converts to in Fahrenheit. Tony's not yet running the beta. Let's see. Mac Telecom Networks is in Ontario, and he says it's snowing like crazy. He's got to get dressed and plow the snow. Good luck. We are supposed to have a snow event here in Peoria, and I'm seeing it starting tomorrow into Monday. We could end up with anywhere between 1 to 10 inches, depending on who you're looking at. So the one thing that we did do is right inside our garage door, we've got the snow blower, got a fresh can of gas. We're ready to go. So, and I'm not picking my nose. I've got some hairs that have grown, and I'm itching it, right? So it's not picking, it's itching. And I don't even know why I felt the need to explain that, but I know somewhere on this video, somebody's going to say he was picking his nose, and I was definitely not picking my nose. And Joe from Cajoling Tech is probably bookmarking that to use that in a video. All right, so let's see. Dave Robertson. Hey, Alonzo, welcome to the party. Dave Robertson said, Gibby, you may not even need 3 Grandstream APs to cover your house. I was amazed at the improved coverage with the GWN 7630s. They're great access points. This is what I'm trying to tell you. And so I think that they're going to be one of the access points of choice for 2021, because do you really need 802.11ax? Maybe not, right? So we'll talk about that. Claren O'Toole says, hey, Willie, just recently found your videos. Going to upgrade to a UDM. Keep up the great work. Thanks, man. Or Sierran, not Claren. Sorry. The screen's was a little tough there. Sorry about that. Do you know if it'll support Wi-Fi 6E? So as far as I know, none of these devices that I have are Wi-Fi 6E. I actually reached out to my rep at Ingenious in an email yesterday and said, hey, will this AP do 6E, or what's the status? And right now, none of the vendors have given me any clear indication of the 3 that I have that there is going to be a Wi-Fi 6E. I'm assuming that's going to come later. I don't know, but like in a business-driven world where things cost money, I got to imagine that these companies are sitting back watching, okay, what are the manufacturers who are making the client components to these networks doing? Are they creating 6? Is 6E going to be the big thing? I'd have to imagine that 6E is going to be the big thing, because now we've opened up that spectrum. However, if that spectrum isn't open worldwide, I know for sure it's the US, and I think they talked about it in some European places and Asian markets, but I'm not sure where all it's going to be at. So also, if you're here and you've been enjoying this, please make sure you hit that like button, that thumbs up. Let YouTube know you're interested in this content. All right, so let's go back to the comments. So Wi-Fi 6E support, we're on the fence on that. Gibby says, do not go to trade schools. It's a waste of time. On-the-job training is the best. Yeah, so on-the-job training with the electrical apprenticeship program is what we are talking about. So IBU has a school here in a town really close to Peoria, and you have to, if you look at their setup, even to do the low voltage. So now they've got this special low voltage specialty. I mean, you're talking like 6,000 to 8,000 hours of experience you have to have before you're kind of like, I'm not sure of the process. See, I came through the system. Like, if you look at the way that I've come up through the system, like my cart and horse have been backwards several times, but I seriously probably wouldn't do it any different way, because I have a nice, unique view. You all have unique views of how things work, and it's because of the way we've come up through the system. So like I'm self-taught from a very young age, but then actually doing this professionally. I owned the first dial-up internet company in the prefix that I lived in at the time when I was 15 years old. Had a BBS before that where people did some file sharing. That morphed into an actual dial-up ISP, who then got, we got bought out by another ISP. So I was self-taught all the way up, and then, got certifications and things like that, and then dabbled in school. But until I had to have a bachelor's, I didn't do it. Now, is my son going to have a bachelor's to have a great life? Absolutely not. If he wants to pick a path in life that requires a bachelor's, then that's the work he's going to have to put in, because there's no such thing as a free meal. And, if, he needs that and that's what he wants, then he'll have to look at that. But we're going to get him started. And it's my belief that we are selling people into debt that they don't necessarily need. If you have watched the channel, or you know me, I've got a couple very good friends who've never gone to college, and they are what I would consider very successful, and so do you have to do the 4 years? Probably not, but it all depends on where, who you want to work for. Do you want to be self-employed? So those are all things that you got to take into consideration. And we got a little off track there. Sorry about that. Okay. So let's see. Oh, by the way, there's some videos out there on this new Raspberry Pi board that came out. It's like a super small board. It's like $4. And what I'm super excited about is somebody in some of the comments said it should be able to do human interface device emulation, right? Which is what makes like the Bash Bunny and the Rubber Ducky and the Poison Tap. And if you don't know who Sammy Camcar is, check out Sammy Camcar. But what makes those devices in that class so dangerous is that your computer inherently trusts keyboards. It inherently trusts mice. And because of that, these types of devices can take advantage of that trust of human interface devices, and then you're had, right? So Sammy Camcar says, the best way to protect your computer is to fill in your USB ports with concrete. Now, that's a super extreme example, and I've got most of the video filmed for this, but I actually reached out to a company. Now, in some places, we use a product called Pad Jacks for Ethernet ports, and they're a piece of plastic that's molded. It goes in an RJ45 connector, and then they've got control numbers on them. And so every empty port, every wall plate or whatever, you match the control number to a location. If you need them, the only way to get them out is to physically clip it, right? So it slows people down. But then I have some of these, which are, let's see if I can get some focus here. These are USB locks, and these are pretty interesting device. These are not going to stop an attacker, but these are darn sure going to slow an attacker down who's going to use your USB ports against you. I've got most of the footage filmed on this, so you're going to see this. It's a really interesting device, pretty inexpensive, and if you're in a compliance-driven environment or you are investigating further security measures, these are very interesting. I want to thank USB Lock for sending these out. And I've got a bunch of the raw footage, and I'm going to put it together, and we're going to do a voiceover. Like I stick them. I actually used the QNAP router that was sent to me because it's got 2 USB ports on the back. And so I flipped it up. I had the camera facing down, and we put a USB lock in the USB ports, and then I show you how to use these keys to get them out. So these are an interesting device. They are not going to, they're definitely not going to completely stop, but they're going to slow the attacker down. And by the time that somebody gets one of these out, let's hope that somebody has noticed that somebody's messing with the computer that shouldn't be. All right. Mac Telecom Networks asks, what multi-gig switch do you recommend? Been looking at a few. So multi-gig switches that I recommend at the moment, Cambium. And I got to get the video done on this. Cambium has an awesome multi-gig switch. QNAP has a great multi-gig switch that you're going to see a video on. Ubiquity does have some multi-gig switches. And Juniper's got multi-gig switches, but they're pretty expensive. I thought about buying one for myself. And I was actually talking to Tom Lawrence about this, about the pros and cons of having vendors send us gear. And so if you watch the Cisco switch video that Tom did, where he gives me a shout out for helping him with some of the configuration and going over some of that stuff, he paid for those switches himself. And the reason he paid for those switches himself is because he could be as critical as he wanted to be. I think, and last year I did buy a good amount of gear myself to do instructional videos on. And you don't always see all the instructional videos. Some of that stuff is private, but there is something to be said about that. And so I've kind of been thinking about that. I'm definitely really want vendors to reach out if they're interested. And I'm going to start evaluating things on kind of a case-by-case scenario to see. I think I'm going to run it through some sort of a test. Like, okay, if I get this, because I had we had that experience with Zycel a few years ago where they sent me that Nebula gear. It was an absolute failure. They didn't want me to talk about how much of a failure it was. And so in the end, we agreed, you send this, pay to send this gear back and I'll take the video down. And that's what happened. Now it's still a private video. And if you're interested in that, hit me up and I'll make sure you get a link to that video. But it was an absolute failure. I'm trying to avoid those kinds of things. But most of the time, if you see a video about something, it's because I like the product and I believe in the product. And so that's why there are some products that I've received, you've seen it in social media, and I haven't done videos on them because I'm on the fence about this product, and I'm vocal about being on the fence about this product because I don't know that it's a product that this specific manufacturer should be deploying. Should end users be deploying this type of technology? There's a bunch that goes into this. All right, so let's see here. Back to the comments. So DJ Evergreen, thank you. DJ Evergreen went out and looked up our Ingenious AP and says that this is a 1 gig port. Bob Carpenter also says it is a 1 gig port. So, all right, Gibby says, do you recommend keeping my Unifi 48 port PoE switch with the Grandstream? Yeah, for now. So Grandstream is going to have their own Ethernet switches coming out. They're not out yet. Don't get rid of your switches unless you're having problems. So Oliver Quinn says, I can't get my restaurant client to move from a 2-line landline system to a PBX. Well, Oliver, show them an ROI statement about moving them from landlines to Telnex, who is our preferred vendor, and show them how much money they can save even with you deploying the system, and that should pretty much sell itself. Let's see here. Yeah, Quick Text says, Tony says that I know damn well Joe at Cajoling is making notes. Absolutely. All right, Carlos says, got a new Unifi Wi-Fi 6 AP in the middle of my 24 square foot home and have 100% coverage in all rooms. It even works with my outside Wi-Fi cameras. Yeah, your mileage is always going to vary on these deployments, and every deployment scenario is different. Bob says, Canada isn't opening the 6 gigahertz band yet. Industry Canada put out a comment on it maybe a month ago. So see, there's an issue right there, right? So now if we have vendors in the United States, and Bob can attest to this, if we have manufacturers in the United States putting out gear and they've got 6 gigahertz, now all of a sudden that gear is going to leak into Canada, and then we're going to have problems. And Sean says, yeah, he's been waiting to do any more Wi-Fi 6 purchases until he hears more about 6E. So with the addition of the MacBook Pro to my business, now I'm going to have the capability to run 3 Wi-Fi 6 clients simultaneously to do some better Wi-Fi 6 testing. So I'm really excited about that. Now we just have to convince my wife, if she's watching this, or maybe she's not, we have to convince her to let us use her phone as part of those 3 to do the testing. All right, so back over to the comments real quick. I love that you are all commenting and participating in this morning. I've got a list of things we're going to get to, but keep hammering the comments. This is fantastic, and make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button too. All right, so Mac Telecom says, I got some Cisco certs, went back to school for networking, was hired to a bank within the first year. It's about your knowledge. Yeah, it is absolutely about your knowledge. So I, as far as switching and routing goes, I work at a CCNP, probably low-end CCIE level. And I was working through my CCNP. Cisco made some changes. I didn't agree with it, so I kind of stopped that. Right now, Juniper is offering free certifications. So if you're interested, I will tell you that I believe that Junos is a much more flexible, much more robust, much more powerful network operating system than Cisco IOS. And so go check out Junos. I've got some Juniper switches thanks to a friend of mine called IP Engineer. And we've got a whole rack of switches. And so you are going to see some things there this year as well. Let's see what else we've got in the comments. Is it possible to have the clients on a wireless guest network isolated, but still give them access to a wireless? Yes, Jim, it is possible to create firewall rules that allow guests that are typically firewalled off to access resources that are not firewalled off. So check out, I've got some firewall rule videos. Check those out, or fill out my contact form. We can have that conversation. Let's see here. So my BBS was a GBAM telco. Before that, I can't remember what the name. So I started off with Major Mud, and it was, Major BBS, but Major Mud was one of the games that was super popular. So it started off as using Major BBS. We had a Boca board. We had 4 lines when we first started. Then we moved over to World Group when we started the ISP. We ran Major TCP IP, and I've actually thought about throwing the board back up. I'm thinking about throwing it on a Synology VM and running it. So let's see. Doug says Telnex install has changed the people's bills dramatically for my clients. Thanks, Willie. Yeah, so Doug is a client of mine, full disclosure there, and we help him put Doug does most of the work, and he'll call us in for like some weird obscure things that a customer needs to do, or we've got this problem with Ubiquity blocking this. So we'll go in, we'll just kind of help him put the icing on the cake, right? And we've switched people to Telnex. I mean, Telnex, so your first, your DIDs up to 50, they're $1 a month, E911 per DID, and you don't need E911 on every DID, is $1.50 a month. And to terminate calls is 0.005 cents a minute. To make calls, 0.0035 cents a minute. I might have that swapped. But anyway, then Telnex to Telnex customers, those calls are free. I mean, we've taken places that were paying $1,200 a month for phone service, and we've reduced their bill to like $26, $28 a month. It's absolutely amazing. All right, so Juniper is way stronger. Yeah, Juniper is fantastic. All right, let's see here. Cajoling says D-Link just released a Wi-Fi 6 USB dongle that you can plug in. What? Joe from Cajoling Link. Let me open up. Oh, no, I've got Signal Messenger on my phone. Joe, send me the link to the D-Link. I will order it today, and maybe you already sent me that. I was blowing up Joe's. Nope, that's somebody else. I was blowing up Joe's watch on his live stream the other night. He was throwing a little shade at me. All the guys in the Tech Quartet, and we are talking about, we are going to expand the Tech Quartet meetings this year. We're going to bring in all types of IT folks from all over the place, and we're just going to have great conversations. I mean, life is too short to be filled with hate and dissent, and we've all got so much knowledge and things to share with each other that's really what we need to be talking about, is being collaborative to move the ball forward. Yeah, dude, Joe, send me that link, please. I'm going to order, and maybe it's at Best Buy, because I got to go to Best Buy. If it's at Best Buy, I'll pick one up today. Let's see, what else? Have I looked at Firewall? So I keep getting questions about Firewall. So I think that the very first version, that very low-end version of Firewall, I think it's like a thing. I think it does ARP spoofing, but they've got a bigger version of the Firewall, and I've been in contact with them. I don't think they're interested in working with me. But if you'd like to see some Firewall videos, reach out to them. Let's see if we can get them to send over a device, even if we have to send it back, if they want to send one out. Joe says, it's going to be Q2 2021 is when the D-Link dongle is going to be released. And they release it at CES 2021. So remember when I said CES is going to be like the proving grounds where all this Wi-Fi 6, all this Wi-Fi 6E stuff is released. So it says D-Link's Wi-Fi 6 USB 3.0 adapter will be available in the second quarter of 2021 for $100. take my money, shut up, take my money, because you know what that does for me? That opens up a whole lot of possibilities for the way we test networks. I am super excited. Joe, thank you for the link. I did not see that, but I am definitely going to be ordering those. So if all of my tech folks out there, everybody here, if that D-Link adapter gets released, make sure you're tagging us on social media. Make sure you're emailing like, hey, the new D-Link adapter is out. So let's take a look at that. Let's see here. Back to the questions. Is the Unifi Protect with cameras doorbell worth pursuing? So I'm going to do a follow-up video on that because I am doing the UNVR video. And a lot of people didn't think that I gave the UNVR a fair shake when comparing it against Synology's surveillance station. So they're very clearly two different classes of products. Surveillance station is going to scale. It's going to move into a different type of way that you use cameras. So the Protect system, as much as it is a very closed system, it's going to work good for some people. So I'm going to, like I said, I got to revisit it, give it a fair shake, do some videos on it. The only G4 camera that I have is the doorbell. So all the cool things that you're seeing everybody else do, I'm not going to be able to do those. And unless somebody wants to send me a G4 camera, I don't know that I'm going to invest in a G4 camera. But if somebody wanted to send one, that's cool. I did have a surprise from a client. A client is sending me something that's an EA. Unky Joe got one of these from somebody. And so I've got a device that's coming to EA, which is going to give me time to play with it and time to figure it out and time to look at it before we're actually able to do videos on it, which I'm pretty excited about it. You know, new technology, you know, I get excited. Bob Carpenter says, and Bob brings up something that wasn't on my list. Have you seen the release from Netgate about their intention to fork the community edition from their appliance version? Any thoughts that I have? Yeah, so pfSense is a business just like a lot of other places. And while I'm a huge open source advocate, and especially government agencies should be supporting and using open source, now they should support closed business too, but they should also be supporting open source. I think if I read correctly that on this pfSense release, there's going to be some lag time and you're going to get some features that you don't get. So it makes perfect sense to me because OpenSense, and I was talking to Tom Lawrence about this, OpenSense has a very similar business model where you get certain things with the paid platform that you don't with the free platform. And so it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. All right, back to the comments. Hi, what can cause a Ubiquity AP not to adopt wirelessly? It could be a lot of things. Firmware, controller versions. So some of the controller versions, this is why it's so important to read release notes on controller versions, because I was on a controller version where I could not get my Unifi APs to adopt wirelessly. Lo and behold, I go in, I look at a different controller version, and it says we addressed this bug. So make sure you're always reading the controller release notes. Dean Middlebrook asked, is there any way to disable the DFS channels on my Unifi 6 AP? I love the IA network option, but it keeps pointing. Yeah, well, first of all, turn off the AI. Don't let the AI configure your network if it's a problem, but then just manually set those around the DFS channel. So DFS can be set off by, when we say radar, right? It could be airport radar. It could be weather radar. It could be military radar, anything that's operating in that 5 gigahertz frequency in that public band. And so those applications get preference over us streaming video games or cat memes or whatever it is you're doing on the internet. All right, back to the comments. Yeah, Joe Trelli from Cajoling Tech, if you want to go ahead and post that D-Link, that Google article that you sent me, I think other people will be happy to know that D-Link is going to be releasing that Wi-Fi 6 adapter. Hey, Carlos ran Miami Links BBS for 7 years, running PC board. That's awesome. Yeah, hey, Unky Joe is in the house. Greetings from Portugal. Steve Kemble says, I have a smart TV that I want to have DNLA access to my NAS and other network resources, but I don't want it on the internet. Any way to do that with my Edge router? Yes. Steve, you can create a firewall rule in your Edge router X. What you're going to want to do is your smart TV. You're going to need to either put a static IP on it or in the edge router, assign it a static lease. And then what you're going to do is you're going to build a firewall rule. I guess you could actually, now that I'm saying it out loud, you could do this with a rule based on MAC address as well. I prefer to do IP addresses. But what you're going to do is you're going to create a firewall rule that blocks, outbound access to port 80, 443, 53, and so that it can't get outside of your network on those services. All right, let's see. Jordan, how you doing this morning, Jordan? Glad to see you around. I feel, Jordan, like you've been missing for a while. You and I used to talk on the phone and stuff like that, and haven't seen you in a while. What is the delivery date for Unifi Wi-Fi 6 AP? So, John, you can already buy the Unifi Lite 6 in the, it's no longer early access, which is why everybody's talking about it. Everybody's doing videos. So let me ask you this, 211 of you, thank you, honestly. So I've got this, yes, these are the kinds of weird things that are just like laying around my office. So I've got this piece of drywall, and when I do this comparison, what do you think? You think I mount these APs on here side by side by side? That's kind of what I was thinking. I'm also got some of this drywall to do phone mounting because I reached out to Flying Voice, right? Because last week in the live stream, I'm trying not to knock stuff off my wall. Last week in the live stream, we talked about the Flying Voice phones. Now, I'm very excited about the Flying Voice phones from the aspect that they run a fork of DDWRT. But we can all agree that this wall mounting is not good. It's just not good. And you're, oof. Wow. All right, so we can agree that the wall mounting on this is not good. So I reached out to them, and they are very interested in the feedback. And I'm glad that they're interested in the feedback because they sent me a picture. And maybe I'll post it on social media. And I don't want you to hold this against them because they are just emerging into this market and kind of trying to understand our market and how we're doing things. And so they sent me this picture. First of all, they do send a power adapter that is right angle. So that's cool. But your Ethernet's still not right angle. But the picture of the Ethernet they sent me, the jacket from the Ethernet is cut back out of the plug and is bent up. Like there's like bare conductors. And I'm like, is this real life? Is this reality? Like, am I in an episode of the Twilight Zone? So I wrote them and I said, this is not good. This can't work. That's not how I didn't say it that way. I said, look, like people are going to lose their minds if we show them that that's how you want this hooked up. So I made a suggestion to them. I said, can we take these ports right here to keep the thin profile of this phone, and can we move them to the side? Can we move them to the bottom? Can we move them to the top? Let's move the ports. And they were very receptive to that feedback. Very receptive. So what I'm going to say is if you don't need to wall mount your Flying Voice phones, I can recommend them right now, for a small PBX deployment. But if you need to mount them on the wall, which there's a lot of places where you need to mount phones on the wall for accessibility, emergency calling, all kinds of things. This is difficult. It doesn't work. But the good news is they were super duper receptive. So I'm hoping to see a new design on that phone. Now we're going to call it the Jitterbug VoIP phone. They're also the company, because no one else apparently listens to the mass consumer anymore, or the weird consumer anymore, which is we got to embrace the weird. We need large button phones. We have an aging population and everything's going to VoIP. So I need a VoIP phone that has ginormous buttons. And Flying Voice is supposed to be sending me one of their Jitterbug voice over IP phones. And I can't wait to actually get my hands on that. So Eric Taylor, I don't know if you're late to the conversation or whatever, but we're not using D-Link routers in a commercial setup. We're using D-Link. We're excited about a D-Link Wi-Fi 6 dongle. And, it may surprise you. Maybe just step back for a second and take a look at who the chipset manufacturer is for whatever NIC it is you prefer, and then compare the D-Link. I think you're going to see on like network cards and stuff like that, you're going to see a lot of commonalities under the hood. So just step back for a second. We're not talking about using D-Link routers or APs in commercial deployments. We're excited about the Wi-Fi 6 dongle. All right, let's see here. Joe says that he would suggest painting the drywall a contrasting color because of the white on white. So yeah, so I may have to do that. I may have to go get a rattle can. I'm not going to spend a bunch of money on the drywall. That drywall cost me like $3.96. I'm going to drill holes in it. Once it's tore up, it's, maybe make a backdrop. I've got some old APs and some extra 22 ammo. And maybe we're going to, make some holes. But Charles says, no, I will have a wood board connected to the drywall and put these on there. Yeah. So Charles, that's actually a great idea. Instead of buying multiple pieces of drywall, you're right. I could just put a piece of wood on the drywall, and then that's a great idea. All right. So Unky Joe says, Willie Howe, the client approved me hiring you. Now send me a price. Unky Joe, reach out. Let's talk about specifics. I will get you a not to exceed price. Quality control equals made in China. So, yes. So Flying Voice is a Chinese company. They're a Chinese made product. Give me an example of one US based business who's manufacturing their voice over IP phones in the States. Okay. So Unky Joe also votes for contrast and color. Okay, so we're going to have to do something with this piece of drywall. Havoc says, last time I looked in the Unifi controller, one could disable 5 gigahertz or 2.4 gigahertz. No, they did not get rid of that. They just changed the way that it works in the controller. So I actually, and where did it go? I'm trying not to create a trip hazard here. So the last week, and this is one of the things that's on my list. So you'll see that the Twitter is afire with changes made to the Unifi cloud key. Now, the Unifi UniOS, or whatever they're calling it, has made its way to cloud keys. And we've had 3 customers in the last week who've installed the update, and it has tanked their cloud key. Tanked it. Factory default doesn't work. Nothing. In 2 instances, their networks have crashed because something happened and it corrupted some switch configurations. Uplinks don't work. VLANs aren't passing correctly. It is a ginormous cluster mess, and we are straightening it out. And I'm not 100% sure what's happening, but I'm definitely going to be looking into it more over the next week. And so I'm going to do a video on this. All I'm saying is proceed with caution if you are updating your cloud key. And then there were also some things said that they changed it so you can only do one site. You can't do multi-site. Now you have to have internet to set up the cloud key. They're definitely making some very progressive moves with their hardware. So we're going to talk about that. All right. Tony says, careful what you say about us old folks in big buttons. Yeah, Tony, you're not that old. Have you guys seen Tony? Like, Tony makes me feel bad every time I'm sitting here. And Joe, just approved you the other night when I was on your live stream. I didn't throw the bag away because I knew you'd probably be on my live stream. And I had a really stressful, tenuous day. Came home and was trying to do some work. And the hot cocoa M&Ms were laying around. And I just obliterated these things and then felt bad after I did it, because the extra running that I draw on the treadmill is not so that I can eat M&Ms, because I've done a really good job of staying away from the sweets and the carbs, but the extra that I'm running on the treadmill is so I can have an adult beverage and not feel bad about that. But go look at Tony. Tony looks like a damn power lifter. Like, Tony makes me look so sad physically. Like, I'm like, what am I, so Tony, like, I can imagine Tony like eating oatmeal and like curling in the morning, right? So like while he's eating oatmeal. Let's see here. Back to Somebody says, don't waste your 22 on the old APs. Yeah. Yeah, Dean, thanks for being here. By the way, 210 of you, thank you so much. I do appreciate you. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button if you've enjoyed the content so far. All right, back to the comments. If you're just joining us and you did see, we are talking about UniOS, Unifi OS, whatever it's called, made its way to the cloud key. Lots of changes happening over at Ubiquity, internally and with hardware. And that is something that we're going to talk about on our new podcast. Okay, Jim says, why not use the tech similar to a green screen background in movies to apply a shade to the drywall? Yeah, I don't know, that's a lot of work, really. Okay, John Stutz says, last update bricked one of my 48 port switches. Yeah. Unky Joe says, I have hot cocoa at night before bed. It helps me sleep. Either the hot cocoa is helping you sleep, Unky Joe, or it's the Fireball that you're putting in there, the Fireball whiskey. All right, let's see. Scripting change. Unifi is trying to make their devices like Meraki. You can't do changes unless it's connected to their portal, which is horrible. I manage a couple of Meraki clients. It'll be very interesting to see where we end up by the end of this year with Ubiquity. C. Ago says, I would love a big button voice over IP phone for my parents. Hopefully no issues using it with Unifi Talk. So there's another product. Let's talk about that. Unifi Talk. If you go over to the Unifi Talk page, somehow they created an ROI statement. And I'm 100% sure that they probably got that idea from other creators, right? I'm not saying they stole it. Everybody's free to do an ROI statement. But when you talk ROI statements, you're talking business, business, business. And that's what makes people really pay attention and make choices that they may not otherwise make. And so somehow Unifi Voice at $10 per line or $10 per handset thinks that they can beat a GrandStream ROI. I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm not sure who they priced that through, but I'm actually going to do a video on that and show you that we still beat the Unifi Talk ROI all day long. And that'll probably be the video that gets me kicked out of the Cool Kids Club, right? So, but don't manipulate the numbers. We don't manipulate the numbers. We have open source spreadsheets that we provide to the public. You can go out and look at where we're pulling our information from. I just updated the voice over IP SIP provider spreadsheet with Telnex's new pricing, and that's kind of fallen off of some people's radars. But like Telnex pricing is unbelievably aggressive, and so you should really check it out. All right, back to the comments real quick. Yeah, time to build our own network gear. So there is open source network gear, but I mean, it's all about time, right? And yeah, Alonzo says, slowly retiring my Unifi network at home. Cannot afford another outage. Happy wife, happy life. Yeah, Alonzo, we are hearing a lot of that, and this one particular school district that had their cloud key go bad, you're talking about thousands of clients on hundreds of Ubiquity devices across 2 campuses. And the update happens the day before school starts. Between one of my subcontractors and me, I was up very early before I went to work to help this person. My subcontractor was on till almost midnight. It was a mess. It was a cluster. And right now they've got no controller. We got a replacement cloud key, but we're going to walk on eggshells and figure this thing out and provide the feedback to Ubiquity to see what in the world went wrong. Yeah, Mr. Tinfoil Hat says that update killed my network as well. So we've got some where it's not actually, like tanking the network, but it's tanking the cloud key, and factory resets aren't working either. Brian Murray says, Willie, I traded in the treadmill for a street bike, way better experience. And you get to wear tights. Well, you wouldn't want to see me in spandex tights. And for now, the treadmill, until the weather changes and we can feel comfortable going out to the park and not freezing, yeah, we'll stick to the treadmill for a while. We are probably going to get some resistance machines and things like that, or a machine. So Terry Johnson, how you doing from up north? Unky Joe says, I have an older Unifi phone. Yeah, that worked out really well. So I also have the older Unifi phones. I can't recommend them at this point. And I don't know anybody else that does voice over IP professionally that recommends the Unifi phones either. And it's got nothing to do. Well, it does have something to do with the handset design. And I can't talk about the products that are in EA, but I believe they've repeated some of the mistakes with those phones that they made with the last ones. Like the last phones, you cannot replace the handset cord. That's the number one consumable thing on a phone that goes bad is the handset cord. You have to be able to replace handset cords. So then you got these people who are super loyal to the Ubiquity brand going, well, I've never had to replace a handset cord. And I said, you probably never deployed a phone then. Like, let's talk about this. You know, there are people that just don't want to say anything bad about vendors. And I'm not saying anything bad. We're just spitting the truth about some of these things. You have to be able to replace a handset cord. The number one consumable thing on a phone, handset cord. You've all seen them. They get damaged. They get ratty. You can't fix them. Brian asks, oh, wait a minute. Let's go up to Eric Taylor real quick. We've been having massive issues with the Unifi AC Pro devices with devices not pulling IP addresses. Yes, so this is the DHCP issues. Again, and still, and all kinds of vendors are having problems with Unifi right now and DHCP. Brian asked, do you offer your customers centralized logging solutions? Yes, we do offer custom, or not custom, but centralized logging. And we usually, if they have a Synology, we will use a Synology for that. Jeffrey, all Ubiquity products run really hot. It is not just the cloud key. Every device runs really warm. Unky Joe says, I don't think I'll be trusting Unifi products in the future. It was nice while it lasted. I would love to know where we took a left turn at Albuquerque. That's what I want to know. Some of the stuff still works really great. Edge routers are still rocking it and are still awesome. That's why I'm saying I'm not bagging on them, but we have to be able to say that vendors are messing up. Everybody has released bad firmware. Grandstream, Synology, everybody has released bad firmware. It happens. You know, we're not just bagging on them. It's all vendors. And if Grandstream does something, I'm going to talk about that. If Synology or QNAP does something. I mean, did you see the latest news about QNAP? Now there are crypto miners running on, and they're targeting specifically QNAP. Now, what does that say? Yes, the devices are popular. Could also mean that, you know, admins expose these things to the internet and are not properly trained. It could mean that we've got a lot of non-IT people deploying these devices because they're in that price point. There's so many things that go into this that we have to recognize it. And we as professionals have to help people who are not professionals and it is not their bread and butter to do this. We have to help them to understand how to secure their devices properly. Okay. Yeah. So this runs super hot. What is my thoughts on the Unifi Beacon HD? I didn't have any problems with the Beacon HD until I went to that firmware that had problem with wireless adoption. So maybe check your controller version on that. Bob Carpenter says Looney Tunes reference +1. Yeah. Suffering succotash, right? That is the worst Sylvester impersonation that you're going to hear today. Probably not the worst ever. Probably just the worst today. All right. Back to, I really wish somebody from Ubiquity was here in the comments looking at what other customers are saying, you know, so that they have a chance to respond. But their modus operandi is we just don't respond. But people continue to you know. Unky Joe says, any update on Synology 7 release? I have a feeling, and I don't have anything official, that we're probably going to see DSM 7 around the summertime. But if you can take the chance and run it on a device where you're not going to lose production, like let's help test it and bang those bugs out, and then we get to release faster. Block QNAP routing the internet. So here's one thing that's interesting about QNAP devices. So right now I have this device that I was having trouble with the transfer speeds. And by the way, it was not the QNAP device causing the transfer speed issues. It turns out it's my USB adapter, which I've got to do. This thing is not connected to the internet. And so when I plug into this directly, let's see if I can get the camera to focus here. There we go. This is not connected to the internet. Why do I have so much hard drive activity for a device that is not connected to the internet? And when this is not connected to the internet and I connect to the UI, it's not happy. But anyway, yeah, the Sabrent device is what's holding up me getting that video out. But yeah, my Synology, when it's not connected to the internet, sits there, nothing. Maybe the hard drive bleeps once in a while because it's doing something cron or whatever. This thing, these hard drives have not stopped chattering in a week. And I'm like trying to figure out what this thing's sitting here doing. So maybe we'll have to talk about that a little later. Excuse me. Which power line do you recommend? So I'm still experimenting with power line networking. I've got a TP-Link. I've got the one from Ubiquity that never made it to production. But yeah, so if you watched Tony's video over at Cajoling Tech this morning, you'll see the GWN 7630 blow the doors off of a Unifi AP. And that's the reaction we get every single time. And you can, if James is in the house, James can attest to this. Grandstream APs are solid, and every time we install them, people are like, oh my God, the Wi-Fi is so much better. And we don't have to go touch them. We update the firmware on them once we're comfortable, and we just don't touch them. And we've been installing them in groups of 30 and 40 all last year. You know, I think we're up to a couple hundred APs, Grandstream APs in production from 2020. So definitely let's keep our eye on that Grandstream line. All right, back to the comments. Yeah, try the Grandstream APs. You can pick them up on my Amazon store for like $90. Don't feel that you have to do that, but it is an option. And yes, we also lag back on the firmware releases. And believe it or not, some of these problems that we're having with the Unifi APs, I've even this year with this issue and the DHCP issue, I've had people roll back to the January 2020 firmware because I know that one is stable. So I just want to get to a base where I know things are stable, I know things are working, and then we'll like try to figure out like, okay, why is DHCP not working? Why are the switch uplinks not working? A lot of troubleshooting. And I'm sure the client is not happy that they have to call in, you know, help because their cloud key broke their network. So Newsfan77 says, looking to buy the Ubiquity Wi-Fi 6 LR. What are your thoughts? This is what I'm going to tell you is you should evaluate everything that's out there and then buy the piece of equipment that makes the best sense for you. I'm going to do videos on it. I'm going to show you configuration tips and tricks on it because I have it and I think it works in specific scenarios. The same thing with the Ingenious and the Cambium. You're going to see that there's a world of difference between all of these different brands. Admin Engineer says, I just deployed a UC3200 SAN. Do you know if snapshots will protect you from ransomware? Yes, that is one of the things about snapshots on QNAP. Well, if your whole device gets messed up, then no. But in an ideal world, yes, snapshots will protect you from ransomware because you take a snapshot at 10 a.m., something happens at 11, you can roll back to the 10 a.m. snapshot. And we also do incremental offsite backups, which will protect you from that as well. Let's see here. No, I meant Tony from QuickTech. And so, Joe, I got you mixed up there. But hey, Willie, is it worth investing into Unifi Protect with G4 Pro cameras? That's going to depend on your use case. And so that's something that we would have to talk about. If you are happy with what they provide and what they do, then it might work out for you. If you're looking for something that scales and something a little bit more robust because you can use thousands of cameras, then that system is probably not for you. In fact, I want to know who's going to pay $1,800 for that big pan tilt zoom camera that Ubiquity has. I'm not going to pay $1,800 for it. For a camera that has almost that same specs, I'm paying $500 to $600, and I'm getting better performance because I can. Now, if they send me one, which I don't think they're going to, but if they were to send me one, I would give it a fair shake, and we could compare it against a Rio Link or whatever. Hey, Willie, how many APs would you say are needed in a three-story, 4,800 square foot home? Probably at least 3, Kevin. I would probably put 1 per floor and then dial in. But once again, you'd have to do a light site survey, figure out what's going on. But without doing all of that, just my knee-jerk reaction is 3. And that could be totally wrong. But I would say a minimum of 3. Oh, yeah. Gibby says every house is different in manufacture, and that's right. Like, what are your walls made of? Like, I know for a fact, and I'm not going to knock on this wall because I'm afraid of my major award falling down and wrecking the net tools over there. But this wall is super thin. Like, I had to get special anchors for this wall, and you can see how gingerly I'm touching the wall because I don't want anything to fall off of the wall. All right. Yeah. So what's going to pass through this wall, versus, a wall that's got, yes, construction definitely makes a difference. Okay, so let's go back over to my notepad real quick. You can't see it. So we talked about Wi-Fi 6 APs. I got some heat on my last video last week about what does Wi-Fi stand for. And, maybe I could have framed the video a little differently, but Wi-Fi really doesn't stand for anything. It is literally a marketing term, and it's just Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi. And I thought that was interesting, especially since Google holds the incorrect answer to that. But I'm going to be dropping some more things about Wi-Fi. If you follow me on TikTok, if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you'll see last night I made what I thought was hilarious. So we were at Kroger picking up groceries, and I'm sitting in the car, and I'm like, you know what? I'm waiting for this. What can I do? And so I made what I thought was a really hilarious TikTok about 160 megahertz with Wi-Fi channels, which is the biggest width you can have right now. And so if you've ever seen Weird Al's UHF, there's this part where this kid finds this marble in this sandbox full of oatmeal, and he gets to drink from the fire hose. And so I was like, using Wi-Fi, 160 megahertz Wi-Fi channels be like, and then we cut over to, you get to drink from the fire hose. And I thought it was hilarious. And my wife's just like staring at me, and she's like, I really wish you were as funny as you think you are. And I'm like, I think it's hilarious. And if you design Wi-Fi, you think it's hilarious. And Wi-Fi does not stand for wireless fidelity. It just straight up marketing. So, all right, back to the notepad here. We talked about the cloud key crashing networks. That was one other thing I wanted to talk about. We talked about the cloud key firmware, how the new cloud key firmware has made some changes. Apparently no longer can have multi-site. Apparently you have to have internet now. So we're definitely going to scope that out and get that information out to you as soon as possible. We talked about, I got to return the Synology UC3200. So I'm going to quick wrap those videos up and get that back to them. And that's all that was really on my list this morning. So does anybody have any questions that they want to ask, in the comments? Yeah. So somebody says, wives never think we're hilarious. It's their loss. Yeah. I often, and even like my coworkers, like I will like be internally like laughing because I think something's funny, and they're just kind of like looking at me like, what is wrong? Is he having a stroke? Yeah. Let's see here. It is not wireless fidelity. Bob Carpenter says UHF is a fantastic movie. Yeah, if you've never seen the Weird Al movie UHF, when it opened, it could have done better, but I think it opened against some like really other strong movies back in the day. And I can't remember if it was in the 80s or 90s, but it's a great movie, especially if you like Weird Al Yankovic. Jordan says, what do I think of Android powered handsets? I like Android powered handsets. I've got the GXV 3350 from Grandstream, which is now my go-to Android powered handset. I think it's a great handset. I've got business customers who have business offices and multiple home offices. Maybe they've got a ranch and a home in another town. We've got them hooked together, and we are using those for executives. And I really do like those. And I think that Android-based desk phones are only going to gain in popularity. So that's what I think. Somebody says, are there any Unifi training videos like LinkedIn videos? So I have a LinkedIn account. I got LinkedIn so nobody else could take my name. I don't use LinkedIn, so I don't know what those videos are all about. There's so much social media that if you did it all, that's all you'd ever do. You'd never be productive. You'd just be worried about updating everything on every social media platform. What is a good no cloud camera solution? The Synology is an excellent solution for that. Yes, we keep our jokes in a database. Yes. All right. Let's see. What else do we have? Who are you using for Synology Q-Night offsite backups? All the options seem to take forever. So a lot of times when we're running Synology, if the client, can do this, we use another Synology device off-site, and we replicate Synology to Synology. I do it two different ways. I replicate Synology to Synology, but I also use Synology C2. I am 100% comfortable using Synology C2 because I control the encryption keys to my data. no one else. And it's like $10 a year for a terabyte. So all of my customer data is backed up at another Synology and on the C2 cloud. Very big difference between providers. I only really, with a Synology, am using that. I have some customers use Backblaze, but we won't get into that now. All right. Dave Robertson says, what VPN are you using for remote Grandstream phones? So Dave Robertson, we typically install a GWN 7000, which is the Grandstream router. Great piece of kit. We install that next to the main firewall if you have an extra external IP. If not, we can nest that GWN 7000 inside your network. But that GWN 7000 provides all the quality of service, perfect open VPN. And once you do that, we can use any of the Grandstream phones that support OpenVPN and other phones that support OpenVPN because it's tuned for what those handsets are looking for, and it works out really great. Let's see. Anything else in the comments? Hey, Kirk. Yeah. So what hard drive models do you use in your Synology implementations? We use Ironwolf Pros. For video, we use Skyhawk. And then in the higher end, like the UC3200, it is you'd have to look it up, but they've got a SAS drive, and that's what we use in the UC3200. Have you ever tried to restore data from a Backblaze account? I have not, but I have customers who have, and I don't think they've ever restored. So I have absolutely no real world experience restoring from Backblaze. From C2, yes. From another Synology, yes. And I am so excited about the DSM-7 changes. You've really got no idea how much DSM-7 is going to be a game changer for people running Synology. So, all right. So we've been going an hour and 16 minutes. I got some things I need to do. Need to check base with my wife. NetTool or Pocket Ethernet? NetTool, always. And if you're not on my newsletter, make sure you're on my newsletter so that you can see when that free certification class comes out. I am legit sitting down a couple of hours every night, and I'm building that out. So I'm hoping by the end of Q1, Nathan over at NetTool has blessed that, and you're all first there'll be a beta class of people that are going to get free training and a free certification, and then once the beta class has taken it, then that class is going to be completely free to everyone for the standard NetTool. Now, you are going to have to own a NetTool. This is the one thing I will tell you. You will have to own a NetTool device to be able to pass the certification. I've built in some mechanisms because of other cert tests that I've taken, things I like, I don't like, but you will have to own a NetTool to actually be able to pass the certification course, even though it's free. So that's all I'm going to give you there. But yeah, if you need IT consulting or whatever, go to williehowe.com, fill that form out. We'll get back with you. If you want to use our Amazon or any other affiliate links, they're down below. You don't have to do that. They don't change your price. They kick a couple bucks over here. I want to thank you all for being here this morning. At one point, there was like 250 of you. This is you blow my minds every day with the support that you have for us. So make sure you're reaching out. I can't wait for some of these videos coming out. Going to be some really good stuff. So everybody have a great Saturday. Stay safe, stay warm, or if you're in a hot climate, stay cool. Be awesome. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.